So, people might have guessed I'm not a big fan of psychometric testing, and I don't really think it's a real, an accurate thing, okay? However, like personality testing, Myers-Briggs type stuff, blah, 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 blah. The only real psychometric testing I think is somewhat accurate is IQ testing, but I do think in a lot of ways, sometimes the data it's selected for improperly, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, what I want to get at is population demographics and political viewpoint. Because the population demographics in the United States are shifting quite a bit, okay, quite a bit, and you are going to see this happen to affect the politics, okay? And people probably are going to say, oh, well, we can win hearts and minds and da-da-da-da-da. We got to get this vote and we got to get that vote and we got to do this and we got to do that. And what people fail to understand is, why do we have such a problem winning hearts and minds? And this is because an Iraqi is an Iraqi, an Afghani is an Afghani, okay? A Somalian is a Somalian, a Brazilian is a Brazilian, a Mexican is a Mexican. People are what they are. Simply taking people out of their native land and putting them into the United States does not make them the same as the people that founded this country. And this is the flaw in magic dirt conservatism. People have heard me talk about magic dirt conservatism a gazillion times. And what the concept of magic dirt conservatism is that you can take people vastly divergent from the people that created this republic, that came here and conquered and settled the land, the wilderness, and created the Republic of the United States of America. Or even, for example, the people that went out west and conquered and settled the Mormon territories in Indian territory. And that somehow magically that you can bring these people from Somalia and Afghanistan and Iraq and, I don't know, all these places, even places like, for example, Italy, Germany. Well, Germany, I guess we did have quite a bit of German immigrants, but I'm going to get into this too. This is also how we ended up with the country we ended up with, is we brought in a lot of leftist Europeans. Okay, we did. We started bringing in a bunch of Italian and German and Central Asian and Central European leftists, anarchists, communists, etc. And this is what caused the softening of the outlook of a country that was founded in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant values, in the values of Puritanism, in the values of Quakerism, and in some extent in the values of and the values of deism and agnosticism and humanism and the concepts of the Enlightenment, is what this republic was founded on. Okay, a unique mix of white Anglo-Saxon Protestantism and the Enlightenment. And people will go, I had one jackass telling me, that the idea of Catholic natural law played an important part in the founding of this republic. Yeah, but not through Catholics. And also, natural law predates Catholicism. And this is the thing, a lot of people are people. People are the people they are, okay? They can be impeded by things. For example, this guy was trying to justify Catholicism and how great Catholicism was, trying to say that Catholicism was the same as Christianity. It's not. But the thing is, what you need to understand, natural law predates Catholicism. Catholicism caused the Dark Ages. People like to say that scientific advancement happened because of Catholicism. While it is true that many people seeking the truths of God were inspired by their faith, many of them weren't Catholic. But beyond that, what's important is people were doing this prior to Christianity. the Greek philosophers such as Plato and Socrates were seeking the truth of God, okay, through the use of understanding natural law and the sciences. Very primitive, but that's where it comes from, is Greece and Rome. It doesn't come from Christianity. Christianity adopted these things and turned them into, Neoplatonic thought to justify some of the things that Christianity believes. And these things were built upon, but they existed prior to Christianity. Christianity impeded. So the scientific advancements that were made after Christianity happened in spite of Christianity, in promoting these Dark Age ideas, and it was honestly not Christianity that caused the Renaissance, obviously, or the Age of Enlightenment, obviously, okay? But my point is that people are the people they are, okay? So when you have a demographic shift like we're experiencing in this country, you see a political shift because people have different views politically. And these views, which research has shown, I don't want to say proven because I'm skeptical of behavioral genetics to an extent, but ethology is a real science, and I will leave a link to what ethology is, which was the science discovered by Conrad Zacharias Lawrence. Conrad Zacharias Lawrence was a zoologist that discovered that baby ducks, the first thing that they see when they hatch, they are programmed to believe that it's their mom, and they follow it, okay? But he won a Nobel Prize for that. They tried to get it taken away because of his affiliation with the NSDAP, but they didn't succeed, thankfully. But my point is that why the study is flawed, in my opinion, is it's restricted to the left-right U.S. paradigm, okay? I don't believe in the left-right U.S. paradigm, whether people are liberal or conservative. And also there's many conservative Democrats and many liberal Republicans. So it's very difficult to isolate it to two viewpoints, because there's more than two political viewpoints. In fact, in Latin America, as I've stated in previous videos, something like justicialism, okay, which is socially conservative and economically, what would be called economically liberal, but it's actually economically conservative. That's reversed in this country. I don't know why, but it's reversed. So it promotes fair trade over free trade, is the best way of putting it, in a way that an American might understand. The concepts of, say, justicialism promote fair trade, meaning that the markets are regulated more strictly for the benefit of the people and the benefit of the country, as opposed to free trade, which is a debacle, okay, and which always ends in basically in an oligarchy running the show, which is what we more or less have in the United States now. But instead of it being more, it's not really individual oligarchs so much as it is corporations. There are a couple people that hold a lot of power, but a lot of it is corporate influence and special interest influence. But what you see is, as you see demographic shift, you see political opinion shift. I'm not terrified about the United States becoming part of Latin America. I do believe that most likely what you will see is you will see a shift to a more socially conservative and a more economically fair system that protects the worker more, that protects those that can't get what they need better. I think that that's what you will see as the country shifts more toward being more Latin American and less Anglo-American. But the price that we will pay with freedom and things like that, you will see a crackdown on freedom of speech and things of that nature that are unique. They're unique to the Anglosphere and to the Germanic and Scandinavian concepts. But more importantly, they're unique to the United States. The United States is like the apex of Anglo-Saxon values. And you will see, if you look in the description, I have plenty of links that show that, political views, generally speaking, are genetic. So you generally will see people share the political views of their biological group. That's why when people ask me, why do I swear up and down that Anglo-Americans are not European Americans? We're not. We are white Americans. We are our own thing. And this is because when our ancestors came here, we came here because we were religiously persecuted, politically persecuted. Puritans and Quakers and Mennonites, okay? When we came here, we were operated on under natural selection, under starvation conditions. The strong survived. The strong were the people that knew how to practice farming properly, how to harvest food properly, etc. We were further acted upon under sexual selection. People valued certain value systems, certain abilities, things of that nature. Okay, what was considered an alpha, everyone wants to talk about alpha males, what was considered an alpha male in the United States was different than what was considered an alpha male in England. You had dandies in England. You had fur trappers and farmers and things like that in the United States. Then, around the 1800s, mid-1800s, we started allowing radicals into the country, as workers mostly, from Russia and from Italy and from Germany. And a lot of these people had very radical views, radical liberal views. And they formed their own groups and their own, like Poles and Italians and Germans and etc. So they formed their own little enclaves. And they eventually began to infiltrate politics. We started getting more and more and more and more Catholics. And Catholicism, anybody that has ever, for example, my mom's family, okay, they're Italian by way of Brazil and Irish. What you will notice amongst the Catholics is they kind of work on breeding their own new race in America, is what they're doing. I personally don't know anyone that's Italian that's not Irish, or Irish that's not Italian. It's just the way things are in the area where I live. And this has to do with the social, again, sexual selection, okay, under the confines of the Catholic social paradigm, the Catholic social structure. But the point is, Catholics tend to be radical leftists, pro-abortion. See, this is the thing. People confuse the religion of Catholicism with the people that practice Catholicism. So in the United States, what you will find, the more so than mainline Protestants or mainline Protestants and evangelicals tend to be hyper conservative, pro-life. Okay, they tend to be pro-life, pro-capitalism, pro this, pro that, what have you. When you start seeing the Catholics in the United States. Now, mind you, we're finally getting Hispanic Catholics. But prior to this, most Catholics were Poles or Italians and Irish primarily, and Poles and Germans and Russians and things like this. So these groups of people tended to be extremely radically liberal. Many were communist or anarchist. Okay? So this is why we softened our outlook. Many of them were Democrat. They infiltrated the Democratic Party. Remember, the Democratic Party was more or less very conservative. If I'm not mistaken, George Wallace was a Democrat. He was also a paleo-conservative. But the thing is, these people, these liberals that tended to be Catholic, they infiltrated the Democratic Party, twisted the ideology of the Democrat Party and turned the Democrat Party into what you see now. Now, what you see with the Republican Party, mind you, Trump is not an American. He is not of the founding stock of this republic. He is I believe, a first generation American, meaning that his parents were both immigrants from Europe, meaning they're soft, they're liberal, they're leftist, okay? And you have seen a lot of the softening of what's considered conservatism in this country, and this has to do with the genetic changes, the ideas of what it means to be a conservative and the ideas of what it means to be a liberal are far different, vastly different than they were, even in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And this is because of the differences in demographics. Okay? We have a demographic shift in this country. A genetic demographic. The genetics of the country are changing. And with this, the concepts of what it means to be a liberal or a conservative or a libertarian have vastly changed. Because now most conservatives are socially liberal and extremely economically greedy. The majority of liberals are anarchists or communists. Okay, so you don't have anything keeping the republic on track. You have people like Tulsi Gabbard that are good old-fashioned Americans, okay, but you don't really have anybody hammering the concepts of Americanism because the founding stock is not really present. It's been diluted with these other groups of people. This is not necessarily, and this is one of the reasons I embrace the concepts of La Raza Cosmica, the cosmic race, because what needs to happen before this republic falls is that people have to understand that genetics matter, ideology matters, and then if we're to save the ideology, we need to begin to explore the creation of a Pan-American race that reflects the ideals of the New World as opposed to the ideals of the Old World. And the only way that's going to happen is if we start looking at things the way that they are, not the way that they were, not the way that we think they should be, but we need to start looking at things the way that they are, and how do we operate? How do we start to operate under sexual selection to facilitate an ideological shift in this republic by embracing perhaps, I don't know, the Latin Americans that are coming in, the Indians that are coming in from India, the Arabs. There are conservative values and there are liberal values, and both need to be present. I do think eventually people will, like in Satanism, water finds its own level. And I do think eventually things will regulate. But will they regulate in a good way, where the republic is preserved, or a terrible way, where the republic falls into disrepair, as it has continued to do over the last century or so? And that's all for this video.